In order to prepare for the preliminary examination, for every candidate, the most essential thing is to have an insight into the nature of the subject and the questions asked from them. An insight into what the topics mean and what can be the possible nature of questions that can be asked gives an enormous understanding and ease of preparation for 1 year, next year, and year after year. As already discussed in the previous section, there are two components of the syllabus. One, the static part, and the second, the dynamic part. The static part is best analyzed subject-wise. For example, history comprises of three sections: ancient, medieval, and modern Indian history. Of all of these sections, modern India is the most important topic of all the sections of history. The focus area in modern Indian history is generally on freedom struggle of India, covering events like Chauri Chaura, civil disobedience, Naval Mutli, and any one of them and its causes and impact. One question that was asked in 2015 exemplifies the nature of the question asked. The question was, with reference to the Rowlatt Satyagraha, which of the following statement is or are correct? 1. The Rowlatt Act was based on the recommendations of the Sedition Committee. Second, in Rowlatt Satyagraha, Gandhiji tried to utilize the Home Rule League. And the third option was, demonstrations against the arrival of Simon Commission coincided with Rowlatt Satyagraha. Now, the students were asked to select the correct answer by having given a code. Now, in this case, the correct answer comprised of 1 and 2 only. That is, Gandhiji tried to utilize the Home Rule League and the demonstrations against the arrival of Simon Commission coincided with the Satyagraha. This type of a question was actually meant to check the precision of information of the candidate, while the one that follows goes on to check the precision even more. This question was, which of the following was or were the chief economic critics of colonialism in India? And the answer was to be chosen from Dadabhai Naoroji, G. Subramaniam Iyer, R.C. Dutt. The correct answer was all three of them, who were critics of colonialism in India. Now, meaning that in modern India, the precision of information in this case is really significant. Questions in modern Indian history that have been asked to test the precision of information, curiosity, as well as the observation level of the candidate. For example, one of the questions that have been asked was, where was the first meeting of INC, that is Indian National Congress, held in Mumbai? The option was not given in the form of whether it was in Mumbai or Kolkata at that point of time, or Madras or Chennai. The option was in Mumbai, and where in Mumbai? Brabourne Stadium, Wankhede Stadium, or near to Chowpatty. Now, just note the minute observation that the UPSC was expecting from its candidates to have observed. The second area of modern India from which a good number of questions are asked is from personalities and organizations. The questions asked from personalities and organizations covers the elegance of the prominent people, their viewpoints, the perspective of these people, and the philosophy associated with these people. Now, meaning that what was the philosophy of Mahatma Gandhi, what was the philosophy of Dadabhai Naoroji or Gopal Krishna Gokhale, and these philosophical aspects, to differentiate them is not at all an easy job. Still, the questions will definitely be asked from these sections. The third area of a question being asked is social reform. Social reform comprises of reform movements, their causes and impact, and the objective of the reformers. The questions from this section are quite familiar one, but there are chances which one would go on to mark as incorrect in haste. The problem with such a section is the closeness of the information and its interpretation, since almost all the reform movements talk of upliftment of the society. Now the difference goes on to be in the form of how is it that they go on to talk about the upliftment of the society, and in what manner do they talk about the upliftment of the society. In order to answer such questions, a thorough understanding of the theme of the reform movement is required, and while answering, all the points and options must be read very carefully. The questions from ancient Indian history are mostly factual and not so difficult to answer, except for the occasional very difficult one which the candidates about which the students do not have any clue at all. But some of the questions can be perspective based as well. If ancient Indian history has been thoroughly and well revised and read, it's not too difficult to mark the answer correctly. The past papers indicate that there are few important topics like the Indus Valley Civilization, Vedic period, kingdoms of South, questions on Jainism and Mahavir, questions on Buddhism and the life of Buddha, and the Indian schools of philosophy are pretty common. This is one representative question from ancient India that was asked in 2015. The question was, which of the following kingdoms were associated with the life of Buddha? One was, the options given were Avanti, Gandhar, Kosal and Magad. Of course, the students were given the choice to pick up the correct answer from the code. Now, the correct answer in this case was Kosal and Magad. But questions in ancient India can go on to range from simple to very difficult, and the students have to be well aware of this fact, and they don't have to be depressed having not been able to answer these questions. Questions in medieval India are comparatively less. Most of the questions are by and large factual. It's only in some topics that the nature of questions can be related to current events, current findings, or current interpretations. That is, even in history, such as Indus Valley Civilization and the causes of extinction, on which the IIT has worked extensively and has come out with a definitive cause that can be actually proven. Not too many questions have been asked of late from medieval India, but few questions are asked every year. Questions are usually simple, and with good reading and comprehension, one shall not find any difficulty handling this section. Consider one of these questions that was asked. The arrival of Babur into India led to the options were introduction of gunpowder in the subcontinent, introduction of the ark and dome in the region's architecture, establishment of the Timurid dynasty in the region. The answer was only the third one, that is the establishment of the Timurid dynasty in the region. So it goes on to show that it was not going to be so difficult. However, having said that, one must understand that some of the questions can be intriguing as well in their interpretations. One such topic can be Haldi Ghati War and the war that was fought between Akbar and Maharana Pratap. The war that was fought between Akbar and Maharana Pratap was with a different aim from both the sides. While the Mughals wanted to capture Rana Pratap, and their attention was not so much on Mewar. The aim of the Rajputs were, under Maharana Pratap, the aim of the Rajputs were that even if Mewar goes on to fall into the hands of the Mughals, Rana Pratap shouldn't, because once Rana Pratap is not into the hands of the Mughal, he will be able to organize the Rajput chieftains in a better manner. Now, a war ensued, and as the war was fought, the Mughals were very effectively able to capture Mewar. Now, because the Mughals went on to capture Mewar, they went on to win the war. But in this war, Rana Pratap went on to escape. But because Rana Pratap went on to escape, they went on to lose the war. From the Rajput side, it was Because Mewar went on to fell into the hands of the Mughals, therefore they went on to lose the war. While because Rana Pratap went on to escape, they went on to win the war. Now, such type of interpretations sometimes go on to become difficult to comprehend, and there will be always one or the second such type of question that can possibly be framed from that. Art and culture is a major subsection that has gained prominence in the prelims as well as in the mains stage. Usually, there are 6 to 12 questions that are asked each year from art and culture and heritage. The questions asked from art and culture can be factual as well as analysis based. The varieties, traits, and qualities of various cultural forms from all parts of India are asked as part of the question. And the topics going to include songs, music, dance, drama, literature, painting, sculpture and architecture, weaving, crafts, tribes and communities. Most of the questions asked from culture and heritage are going to be direct, but then there are lots of surprises from a candidate's perspective. Often, questions pertains to those art forms that have a very high regional connotation, and questions are asked from all regions of India. The questions of culture actually and really test the awareness and curiosity level in the candidates. It seems possible that in the present government setup, the questions may be a means to test the candidate's awareness about his own country and its culture. Consequently, more surprise elements might be expected in the near future, and even now as well. The candidates must be equipped to handle such type of surprises, as the questions might look like coming from almost nowhere. The 2 questions that were asked in 2015 were factual in nature. One of these questions was, with reference to the art and archaeological history of India, which one of the following was made the earliest? One option was Lingaraj Temple at Bhuvaneshwar. Second option was Rock Cut Temple at Rock Cut Elephant at Dhali. Third was Rock Cut Monuments at Mahabalipuram. And the fourth option was Varaha image at Udaygiri. It was a rock cut elephant at Dhali that happens to be the correct answer. And this answer was not too difficult to answer. But the second question was indeed difficult to answer. The question was on Kalamkari painting. The question read like, Kalamkari painting refers to, option was 1. Hand painted cotton textile in South India. Second, handmade drawing on the bamboo handicrafts in northeastern India. Third was a block planted woolen cloth in western Himalayan region of India. And the fourth was a hand painted decorative silk cloth in northwestern India. Kalamkari is actually a hand painted cotton textile in South India. But then, as you go on to observe it, the options in this case were very, very, very close. This was a difficult question to answer because of the intricacies involved and because of the rarity of the information available with the topic, and also because of the type of a closeness between the options. Some questions on art and culture can be observation based and can really test the imaginative power of the candidate. One such question can be, identify the painting from the given description. Most of the paintings are portraits of girls. The girls are portrayed as having a pointed chin and nose, the face is oval, and the eyes protrude beyond the facial suture. These paintings developed in South India and are called, of course, it was Lepakshi painting. The second type of question that seeks to test the minute learning and observation capability of the candidate can be, Patola, which flourish in an area of Gujarat, has equivalent of tie and dye in Rajasthan. Both the colorful forms flourish because of the option that can be given can be similar type of dynastic rule, similarity and sameness of relief of landscape, the cultural background of the people, and so on. Now, effectively, It was the similarity and sameness of the relief and the landscape and the insipid nature of the landscape that allowed so much amount of color to flourish, both as part of patola as well as of tie and dye. In Rajasthan, colors are significant because the landscape is same and of the same color. In Kerala, because the landscape is colorful, people don't going to be using so much amount of color and most of them going to prefer a white. Now this was one part that was very conceptual and it must have been in the minds of the candidates all the way they have been brought up in India. Polity, society and governance has almost 15 questions and that is why it goes on to become important. Most of the questions that are asked they are asked from Constitution and are based on the facts of Constitution. The questions that are mostly asked are current affairs based with these concepts and are very really and are really important, particularly the legislative procedure which have a bearing on the Constitution. Various ministries and their schemes and programs associated with welfare are equally significant. With this respect and with this section, it is important to note that the question appears to be simple, but the options are very close, sometimes confusing, and they are framed with an aim to confuse, and so there are larger chances of the candidate undergoing through a negative marking. A thorough reading and practice of questions has to be the best strategy to prepare for this section. One representative question that can be from Indian polity can be 1. With reference to the Union government, consider the following statements. The options we given were: the Department of Revenue is responsible for the preparation of Union budget that is presented in the Parliament. Second option: no amount can be withdrawn from the Consolidated Fund of India without the authorization from the Parliament of India. Third, all the disbursements made from the public account also need the authorization from the Parliament of India. Of course, the candidates were given the choice to choose the correct statements and the correct statement in this case was only one. That was number 2. That is no amount can be withdrawn from the Consolidated Fund of India without the authorization from the Parliament of India. The second question has been: the fundamental object of Panchayati Raj system is to ensure which of the following? 1. People's participation in development. 2. Political accountability. 3. Democratic decentralization. And the 4th, financial mobilization. Now both of these questions go on to show rather simple nature of Indian polity, and Indian polity is simple except for the fact that a good number of current affairs related topics are asked as part of Indian polity. Of all the sections that are asked, geography is perhaps the single most important section, as each year at least 20 questions are asked directly and some more questions indirectly. We say that indirectly because geography transcends through a lot of disciplines: economics, society, biology, sciences and even history. Therefore, to call any question as purely belonging to geography will not be proper. Some of the questions can partly belong to geography and partly to economy or to society or to ecology or sciences. However, talking strictly about geography, the section is actually divided into 3 major subsections that comprises physical geography, world geography and locations, and Indian geography. In physical geography, the questions are now either analysis based or application based. Some important topics from where most of the questions are asked are from universe and astronomy, rotation and revolution of the earth, geomorphology and physiography, world climate and climatic types, and in oceanography, the most favored topic of the question setter happens to be ocean currents. One such question that tests the conceptual clarity of the candidates was asked in 2015 was, in the South Atlantic and Southeastern Pacific regions in tropical latitudes, cyclones do not originate. What is the reason? Now, understand this. Although they have asked the question that is cyclones do not originate, it should have been tropical cyclones do not originate, and that is what they mean. The options that were given was sea surface temperatures are low. Second was intertropical convergence zone seldom occurs. C was Coriolis force is too weak, and D was absence of land in those regions. This question has been knowledge based. It is analysis based, it is concept based, and everything. The question could have been complicated further by inserting one option and making it multiple choice option. As a fourth option, if the choice would have been upwelling is a common phenomena along southeastern part of the ocean, and the choices would have been numbered as 1, 2, 3, 4, and the candidates had to pick up within these 1, 2, 3, 4 options, then the questions would have become even more difficult to handle. The modified question will now be completely knowledge based, as for every given choice required, the candidate had to know everything about these terminologies in every option. Such type of questions can best be avoided if the preparation has not been on a firmer ground. Other typical questions that can be asked from physical geography can be, Amazon basin receives a high amount of rainfall than all equatorial zones. This is because the choice can be, Amazon basin is densely vegetated. The second choice can be, the winds northeast trades and southeast trades over Amazon are much more moist than the Congo basin. The third choice is, Amazon is not affected by El Nino unlike Southeast Asia. And the fourth, Amazon basin is blocked by Andes mountains on the west. Now, in this case, the correct answer will go on to be the northeast trade winds and the southeast trade winds over Amazon, and all of these winds that go on to be blocked by the Andes mountains. But then answering of such type of question will go on to require a very good understanding of the type of equatorial climate and the mechanism for the development of such type of equatorial climatic conditions. Congo basin will be in any case dry, largely because one of these winds go on to blow from Sahara and the second wind goes on to blow from the southeastern region. Another question can be asked from geomorphology, can be in the form of assertion reasoning form. The assertion in this case is basalt is more likely to undergo chemical weathering than granite. The reasoning is basalt has higher Fe content that undergoes oxidation. The fact is basalt really undergoes chemical weathering faster, and that is largely because of a high amount of iron content that allows it to be oxidized and go on to become weak. Other than physical geography, world geography and mapping is significant, as every year 2 to 5 questions are asked based on atlas and its locations. These questions are from mountains, rivers, plateaus and other form of geographical locations like forests and vegetations, grasslands and other features, seas, oceans, gulf, islands, major cities in the world and the people of the different communities of the world. The student in this case are required to develop a good sense of observation or also go for good practice of the locations. The location aspects of the world geography is significant from 2 angles. First is, they form a very good base for the study of geography, ecology, current affairs, international affairs for prelims, world history and international relations for the mains examination. Second reason is a good number of questions of physical and human geography are asked from examples from the world, which have some observational component. These questions can't be answered unless world geography is studied, imagined and practiced in its true form. One question of an interdisciplinary nature mixed with current affairs, which has been asked in 2015, goes on to comprise of the area known as Golan Heights sometimes appears in the news in the context of the events related to Central Asia, Middle East, Southeast Asia, and Central Africa. Now, the correct answer in this case is Middle East. Golan Heights happen to be associated with some portions of north and east of Sinai Peninsula. Another question that can be framed, and that will be observation based, can be arrange the following features of Australia from north to south. The options that can be given in this case can be 1. Cape York, 2nd. Cosgrove Ranges, the 3rd. Bass Strait, and the 4th. Murray-Darling Basin. This question is observation based because unless the candidate has gone through the whole of Australia thoroughly, he won't be able to answer it. Indian geography is a favorite source of questions in civil services examination. In Indian geography, the questions look innocuously simple, but their adherence to simplicity and their probing nature do make it unrecognizable. The major topics of Indian geography from where questions are asked include: one is physical geography of India. This is the most important section, comprising sections such as geographical features like mountains, rivers, lakes, forest and vegetation, wetlands and mangroves. Questions from this section include both causative aspects as well as observational aspects. Factual forms of questions are generally absent now. In human geography, questions are asked mostly from tribes and the communities and the lifestyle of the tribes and the communities. For example, Kral is a village that is associated with the Maasais, and that can be one form of a question. In agriculture, the questions are asked from crops, their conditions of growth, and the type of irrigation techniques. These type of questions in agriculture are fairly straightforward and fairly simple. In industry, the questions pertain to the location and the resource base, particularly related reasons for resource utilization or non-utilization in this case. For example, the question can be asked with respect to why is it that New England went on to flourish, or why is it that Damodar Valley region is declining. The other section is resources, its geographical location, its uses and conservation, and on forest, vegetation and grasslands with their diverse biodiversity with a special focus particularly on the Himalayas, largely because they are threatened, mangroves, largely because they are very fragile, and the wetlands, largely because its significance has not been specifically understood by the Indian people. Other of these questions can be on protected area network, like on wildlife sanctuaries, their geographical locations and their uniqueness. And this section goes on to overlap with ecology. Transportation network is going to be another one of them, and most of the questions on transportation network go on to be in vogue, and they are likely to be asked in 2016 as well as in 2017. This is largely because one of the greatest amount of work is being done on the road network, railway network, as well as on the establishment of new ports. One of these questions that have been asked from Indian geography in 2015 include: which of the following regions of India has a combination of mangrove forest, evergreen forest, and deciduous forest? The options were North Coastal Andhra Pradesh, Southwest Bengal, Southern Saurashtra, and Andaman and Nicobar Islands. The answer was, of course, Andaman and Nicobar Islands. But imagine, it's very difficult for a candidate to comprehend that where can be a deciduous forest that can be found. Deciduous forests go on to be in a very small patch in Andaman Nicobar, particularly in the lee side of some of these forests. But most of it is going to be evergreen and mangrove type. And this is the true, typical UPSC identification of a question. This question is basic, it goes on to test the basics. It is knowledge based as well as observation based. Students have to be prepared to answer such type of questions where only mugging will not help. While this question was all about very sincere, honest and careful studies, the next question is all about facts which the students find it difficult to comprehend, search or even retain. This is, consider the following statement. The Accelerated Irrigation Benefits Program was launched during 1996-97 to provide loan assistance to the poor farmers. Hardly anyone remembers. The Command Area Development Program was launched in 74-75 for the development of water use efficiency. Even though both of them are correct or incorrect, it is very difficult for a candidate to go back to such a period and go on to observe that they have been correct or not. One of the best ways to understand the typical nature of a question that can be asked will be, the local low winds originate because of, the options that can be given will be, local heating and intensification of the monsoonal low pressure trough. Second option can be, subsidence of air and consequent warming which gives clear skies. The third can be, establishment of jet streams. And the fourth, alluvial soil. Now, out of all of these four options, alluvial soils are completely negated. There is absolutely no chance that they have any role to play in the genesis of low. Establishment of jet streams are not associated with a local wind at all. They are associated with a global wind circulation. The subsidence of air does go on to give a warming condition and clear skies. But then the subsidence of the air will never go on to give such a high temperature as is associated with low. So, the only option in this case is local heating and intensification of the monsoonal low pressure trough. One current based question that can be asked this year, particularly 2016, can be about the Atirapalli Falls. Atirapalli Falls have been in news largely because some of the governments have talked about damming the Chalkudi river on which the fall goes on to be located. The question that can be asked can be, there are some remarkable features about Chalkudi river. Mark the correct one. 1. Atirapalli Falls is a cascade is located on the river. Second, Atirapalli cataracts are located over the river. Now note, the difference is only going to be in terms of cascade and cataract. The third, Sholayar project is made over Chalkudi. And the fourth, the Chalkudi flows parallel to the Western Ghats before meeting Vembanad near Cochin. Now, all of these choices have been made deliberately very, very close, and the student will go on to find it very difficult to answer it. But there are two things that are clean, and they are correct. Atirapalli Falls are a cascade that is located on the Chalkudi river, and Sholayar project indeed over Chalkudi. Other than geography, the more important section is environment and ecology, which is in vogue, and this is a section that is gaining prominence as the focus on environment is getting more and more attention in general. The number of questions from this section asked is going to be around 15. Questions pertains to static as well as the dynamic sections of ecology and environment. This section has many questions which overlap with geography and biology. Although the syllabus mentions that general and not very specialized questions shall be asked, the syllabus is very, very open-ended, and UPSC always goes on to believe in breaking the rules and the laws that itself goes on to form. The major topics on which the questions are asked in ecology and environment include ecosystem and its characteristics, biomes, which is an interesting section and a good number of questions are asked. That includes vegetation, wildlife and ecological adaptations, biodiversity, particularly the significance of biodiversity, the threats and the conservation, pollution and the associated issues, climatic change and maybe ozone hole depletion, which may be responsible for climatic change, and more importantly now, various treaties, agreements and legislation concerning all of the above, meaning legislations on climatic change, on biodiversity and wetlands, and then on different animals and plants and their behavior. Of course, it can be always concluded that current developments associated with the topics are not to be left behind at all. An observation-based question that was asked in 2015 has been, which of the following national park is unique in being a swamp with floating vegetation that supports a rich biodiversity? Note that it is talking about a floating vegetation. And Bhitarkarnika National Park? Can't be. Kebul Lazmo National Park in Manipur? Let's think about it. Koiladev Ghana National Park? Not possible. Sultanpur National Park? Not possible. And the only option left is a Kebul Lamazo National Park, that is going to be in Manipur with Loktak Lake. And that was a real test of observation. The question means to test the candidate means to test that the candidates must have a very sharp observational differentiation and an ability to separate out any exceptional remarkable feature. Incidentally, these things that the UPSC looks for, that is, they go on to take into account three traits within the candidates if they have. First, the curiosity of the candidates. Second, the awareness level of the candidates. And third, the interest level of the candidates and its sincerity. UPSC precisely tests these three traits. Unless the candidates have curiosity, there is no way that they can answer such sharp observation-based questions. The next question is concept-based, study-based as well as very conventional in nature. For example, what can be the impact of excessive or inappropriate use of nitrogenous fertilizers in agriculture? The choices have been: proliferation of nitrogen-fixing microorganisms in soil can occur. Second, increase in the acidity of the soil can take place. And the third, leaching of nitrate to the groundwater can occur. Now, answer in this case had been 2 and 3, that is, increase in the acidity of the soil and leaching of nitrate to the groundwater can occur. A very fundamental question that tests whether the candidates are really ready with their basics can be, which one of the following is the best description of the term ecosystem? And the options were: a community of organisms interacting with one another. Second, that part of earth which is inhabited by living organisms. Third, a community of organisms together with the environment in which they live. And the fourth, the flora and fauna of a geographical area. Now, this was a very, very basic question, and the students must have grown up studying these topics all the way from their school days. Some of the questions of interdisciplinary nature that are likely to be asked in ecology and environment include the overlapping nature of the questions with economy, zoology, botany, geography, and culture as well. For example, one question can be asked on the difference between the African lion and the Asiatic lion. Now, the difference is essentially related to the mane. African lion has a very well developed and larger mane. Second is the tail of the African lion is going to be smaller, and the size of the African lion goes on to be bigger. Now, this is one observation that must have been noted by anyone who has been preparing for the examination. Another question can be on animal behavior, such as who heads the herds of elephant and the pride of lions? And the choices that can be given is the oldest lion, the biggest elephant in size, the most dexterous hunters, and the oldest female. And this is a question that will really test whether the students have been interested in ecology or not. It is the female. It is the female in the herd of the elephant, as well as they are the one who go on to head the pride of the lions, who go on to go for hunting. The initiative of hunting is not taken by the male lion. It is the female lion who go on to initiate the hunting process. There can be another question on an Indian snake and its behavior. And the snake is a dhamin, biologically called as Theas mucosa. And the question that can be asked can be why the snake is shy and on what creatures it feeds on, what does it eat, how does it kill its prey, and how one can go on to identify this snake from king cobra. Now, anyone who has known about dhamin, it's a snake that is going to be found in the plain regions of Ganga, particularly in Bihar. These are the snakes that are going to be called as rat snakes because they're going to feed on rat and they run very fast. So, an equivalent of it in Uttar Pradesh is going to be called as Ghodpachar. They, when threatened, go on to mimic the cobra. So, they're going to lift half of their body above, and it can be easily observed that they do going to mimic the cobra. Otherwise, it's a real sweet snake, and it is because of these snakes that the ecosystem goes on to be balanced in the agricultural plains of Bihar. Because if they don't go on to eat the rats, then the proliferation of the rats will go on to be having a devastating effect on the ecosystem. In a similar manner, one has to know the difference between the olfactory sensation of dogs, elephants, and polar bears. And why is it that Labradors are the dogs which are going to be used at all the airports, a sniffer dog, and why is it that Saint Bernard is going to be used as an avalanche dog? Other than ecology, economic and social development section has also 15 odd questions. Questions are both static and dynamic. Questions are less factual, more analysis based, and even more applied. Answering these questions requires a high clarity of concept and precision of facts. Questions are not very tough, but since the students don't have a conceptual clarity, they make it troublesome for themselves. Major specialized topics from where these questions can be asked include fiscal policy, the monetary policy, particularly money supply, interest rate, working of the RBI. It can be on banking and financial inclusion. It can be financial bodies and their institutions, the money market and the capital market as well. Other than that, it can be agriculture, industry, the tertiary sector, human development issues. But most of these questions have been now from multilateral organizations and their groupings, especially World Bank, IMF, World Trade Organization. Their functioning, reports, and membership, and any issue associated with current affairs. There are bound to be questions on social welfare, aims and objectives, and the diversities associated with the social welfare. There are 3 questions that were asked in 2015 that are representative of the type of a question that can be asked. One has been, a decrease in tax to GDP ratio of a country indicates which of the following? Options were slowing economic growth rate. Second, less equitable distribution of national income. The students were to choose from both of them, and they have been given some choices. That was a simple question from economy. The question was not factual, it is a concept-based question. But then it was simple. The next question is curiosity-based. In the index of 8 core industries, which one of the following is given the highest weightage? Coal production, electricity generation, fertilizer production, steel production. Of course, the answer in this case is going to be electricity generation. The third one is observation based. With reference to Indian economy, consider the following: bank rate, open market operations, public debt, and public revenue. And which of the following is our component of monetary policy? The answer in this case is going to be 1 and 2. That is a bank rate and open market operations. Of late, the government has started asking a lot of questions on government schemes and programs. It is a section which gives many surprises because it's a dynamic section. Questions may appear to be factual but mostly associated with current affairs. The questions are associated with welfare and inclusive growth. To prepare for this section, PIB site, that is the Press Information Bureau site, is very helpful. To prepare for this section, a smart study is needed because if it is prepared in a conventional and traditional manner, it is bound to become voluminous and unmanageable. Important sections in this case include agriculture, depressed classes, unemployment, and the recent report of the ministries. The two questions asked from this section typifies this approach. One is Pradhan Mantri and Jan Dhan Yojana had been launched for the options given were providing housing loans to poor people at cheaper interest rates. Second, promoting women's self-help groups in backward areas. Third, promoting financial inclusion in the country. The fourth, providing financial help to the marginalized communities. Now, the answer in this case was promoting financial inclusion in the country. The second question has been, which of the following statements is or are correct regarding National Innovation Foundation of India? 1. NIF is an autonomous body of the Department of Science and Technology under the central government. Second, NIF is an initiative to strengthen the highly advanced scientific research in India as a premier scientific institutions in collaboration with highly advanced foreign scientific institutions. Of course, the censor has to select from both of them. One of these sections that has become a prime focus has been multilateral institutions, treaties and agreements. These topics have been covered in various sections above, whatever that we have talked about. Although most of the questions that are going to be asked on these institutions are going to be current based, yet there can be some type of surprises associated with these type of sections. During the course of preparation, one must prepare this section with an eye on current affairs. One of these questions has been, Amnesty International is an agency of the United Nations to help refugees of civil wars. Second, it's a global human rights movement. The third, it's a non-government organization to help people voluntarily from the very poor section. And the fourth, it's an intergovernmental agency to cater to medical emergencies in war-ravaged regions. Now, it's a global human rights movement, essentially, Amnesty International. The second topic has been associated with Biocarbon Fund Initiative for Sustainable Forest Landscape. And the question that was asked was, who manages it? One is Asian Development Bank, the International Monetary Fund. The third has been United Nations Environmental Programme, UNEP, and the fourth, World Bank. It's World Bank actually. There can be questions from government schemes and multilateral institutions. Most of these are current based and are related to the events taking place and or policies that are being made by the government. There are three ways that a question can be asked from such type of a topic. On such institutions like that of World Bank, IMF or NABARD, which are old and on whom many questions have already been framed, the questions framed will be really very minute observation based and details and perhaps appear and details that go to appear once in newspapers, such as who wrote the theme of that institution and its tagline. Now, such type of a question can be asked only because almost all of these questions may have been exhausted out of it because they have been asked so many times. The second question relates to the institutions or schemes that are in use and for what reason they are in use. What role have they played and what is the likely impact of their present role on the economy or the society. For example, if the government decides to revamp the Geological Survey of India for mineral exploration, then what are the new satellite technologies that GSI will be using or with which country it is entering into an alliance with? That's the second type of question. The third is related to some new schemes being created or some new and some old institutions being resurrected. The questions from this will be straight, something like Digital India or Namani Gange. The general science and the science and technology section has an average 7 to 10 questions that are asked, and they are both static as well as dynamic. But we'll say it's more dynamic than that is static. The dynamic section is mainly current affairs based, and the questions are divided into two sections: questions pertaining to general science and its traditional components but with an applied orientation. The second portion relates to science and technology, which comprises mostly questions on the role of technology and the recent advances associated with it. Also related to it are new technologies and their applications, the role of India and the recent developments in India. This theme reflects itself in 2015 question. The question was on near field communication. It read like, with reference to near field communication, which of the following statements are correct? The choices were: first, it is a contactless communication technology that uses electromagnetic radio fields. Second, the NFC is designed for use by devices which can be at a distance or even a meter from each other. The third, NFC can use encryption when sending sensitive information. And then the candidates were given such type of choices. Now, except for the second one, NFC is designed for use by devices which can be at distance from even a meter from each other is wrong, but then the other are correct. The second question that has been asked has been, in which of the following activities are Indian remote sensing satellites used? 1. Assessment of crop productivity. Second, locating groundwater resources. Third, mineral exploration. Fourth, telecommunication. And the fifth, traffic studies. And definitely it is associated with assessment of crop productivity. Definitely with respect to locating groundwater resources, mineral exploration as well. Telecommunication is essentially handled not by remote sensing satellite, but it is handled by geostationary satellites. So, in this case, the answer is going to be 1, 2 and 3. It is not telecommunication or traffic studies, which are mainly handled by a geostationary satellite, not by a sun synchronous satellite. Application based questions can be asked, and that will imply that the topics are conventional physics, chemistry or biology. But the presentation in the question will be requiring a real deep understanding. For example, one question that can be asked is, why is the reusable space shuttle being developed by India has a flat base and made of composite or ceramic tiles? That requires a deep understanding as to why ceramic tiles are being used, and why is it that its belly is flat and made of carbon composites, which can go to withstand the temperature conditions of over 4000 degrees centigrade. Or why a girl who is exercising with her back to the wall will not fall forward while she kneels forward to touch her feet, while the boy will fall. And this is largely because the girls generally going to be having a lower center of gravity. The boy's center of gravity goes on to be on the topmost torso. Girls are less likely to fall in comparison to that of the boys. Or the third question that can be asked, as to why Don Juan Pond in Antarctica does not freeze even when the temperatures in Antarctic fall to below minus 40 degrees centigrade. Now, Don Juan Pond is one of these saltiest bodies, not one, it's the saltiest body of water in the world. It is only about 2 inches to 6 inches deep. It is only about 2 to 6 inches deep, and even at minus 40 degrees centigrade doesn't go to freeze. And this is a real applied nature. Or another of this question can be, what type of a steel is used for containing nitric acid and dimethyl hydrazine as a space fuel? Or even why and how the VHRR, that is very high resolution radio meter of the Indian remote sensing satellite, is being amplified, and what are its implications, and how is it used to track the border incursions. A good number of questions are likely to be asked from emerging technology, and all of these questions that we contemplated that can be possibly be asked They are very, very applied in nature with a lot of current affairs connotation. Questions from physics are current-based, application-based as well as technology-based. To answer application-based questions, the conceptual insights and its framework is enormously significant. The current-based questions can be drawn from new frontiers of physics such as astrophysics. Some questions can be factual, such as what is NGC or the National General Catalogue in Astronomy and how is it used? Now, this is a means of categorizing all the type of stars and all the type of luminous bodies, and it has been internationally recognized methodology. But some questions can be real twisters, such as a binary star was seen emitting immense amount of radiation in the form of gamma rays, X-rays and other short wavelengths spiraling into invisible. This is indicative of the choice can be existence of a black hole, stars bleeding to death, supernova explosion, etc. Now, this is a real phenomena taking place in astronomy, because one of these stars, Cygnus X1, which is a binary star, is being bled to death because of the existence of a black hole nearby. Because black hole is gravitationally the most dominant object in the entire of the universe. Questions from chemistry seem to be both factual and analysis based. Latest developments are extremely necessary for preparation of it. There will be always questions from biology every year. In order to answer these questions, concepts of fundamental nature must be very well understood. The conceptual base for biology requires a solid base of up to +2 level. The questions asked in biology not only test the candidates of the sound conceptual frame, but also the wide application of concepts and the contemporary developments associated with it. There can be 3 types of questions. One can be understanding based, such as what does the upper figure and the lower figure mean when the blood pressure is high or low, and what they are called as. This is conventional in nature. Second can be what are the dangers of a gallbladder stone if someone has it, because the gallbladder stone has the potential to block the mouth of the liver, and in which case it can go on to cause jaundice, and it can go on to be real fatal in this case. Some of the questions can be current based, such as recently one medicine Tadegesic and its generic buprenorphine was banned. The reasons were, the choices that can be given can be it was derivative from opium. Second was it is synthetic drug having a high addictive value. The third choice can be given can be it was being misused by drug addicts. Now, with respect to these things, it becomes really very difficult for a candidate to answer a question correctly, largely because the drug has been banned because of its synthetic drug base, because synthetic opiums go on to be having a very, very high addictive value. But it was because of this reason that it was being used by the drug addicts. So, in essence, all of these 3 can be correct because it was a derivative from opium. Maybe we can go to say it's not an opiate, but then that is also not going to be 100% incorrect. But questions in biology can go on to be of such type. The third type of a question can be application based, such as whenever an antibiotic is administered onto the patient, doctors also prescribe multivitamin capsules. Now, why is it that the doctors prescribe multivitamin capsules? Why is it that they prescribe an antibiotic, and what can be in combination with an antibiotic is something that the students must always go on to know. It is application based, and this is something that they go on to understand and observe on a day-to-day basis. Questions from agricultural science happen to be increasing every year. Questions are of basic level and applied level as well. Although some questions are subject specific, yet if one has developed a learning mechanism of the topic, one can go on to solve it. Questions on agriculture are mostly recent development driven with an insightful thinking. For example, One question that can be asked in the light of a recent banning of subsidies used for chemical fertilizers can be: greater amount of nitrogenous, phosphate and potash fertilizers are used in the agriculture farm. Now consider these statements. It will require a greater use of irrigation water, choice number 1. Choice number 2, it will lead to micronutrient deficiency. The third, it will lead to the development of concretions in the soil. Now the answer in this case is that it will go on to require a greater use of irrigation water and will also lead to micronutrient deficiency, because the greater the amount of macronutrients that are going to be used, the more will be the depletion of the micronutrients in the soil. Now, of course, it will also go on to lead to the development of concretions in the soil. So, all three of these are going to be correct. The questions which are framed from current affairs can offer many surprises and can go on to move in any direction. It's unfathomable to know whether the questions go on to be having any type of a trend in this case or not. For example, the Fortaleza Declaration recently in news is related to the affairs of, the choices can be ASEAN, BRICS, OECD and WTO. The correct answer in this case is BRICS. The second question that can be, among the following which are frequently mentioned in the news for the outbreak of Ebola virus recently? One of the option was Syria and Jordan, second was Guinea, Sierra Leone, Liberia, third option Philippines and Papua New Guinea, and the fourth was Jamaica, Haiti and Suriname. The answer in this case was Philippines and Papua New Guinea. The third of it was it was a bombshell of sorts, because it was on Goldilocks zone. The term Goldilocks zone is often seen in the news in the context of the limits of habitable zone above the surface of the earth. Second option was regions inside the earth where shale gas is available. The third option was search for earth-like planets in outer space. And the fourth, search for meteorites containing precious metals. So effectively it goes on to be said with search for earth-like planets in outer space. It's a developed and evolved form of cosmology, X-biology as well. Some current affairs question can ask, current affairs based question can ask questions which can really test the student's observation to the minutest level. For example, one of the questions that can be asked can be on the type of engine used in Rafale and from where it has been manufactured. The second question can be the use of the flash X-ray technology used in deciphering the buried X-ray channels of Indus Valley, or undeciphering the structural fatigue in aircraft such as MiG, and how do they function. Then, the name of the fleets that were used by the Americans for patrolling the South China Sea. Now, all of these three questions that we go on to talk of, they are very, very minute, and they are going to be testing the real minute observation capability of the candidates. Such questions are best dealt by developing interest in the study of newspaper. The preliminary examination effectively is best dealt with by developing an interest in the topic. Interest is a byproduct of curiosity, and it allows the candidates to take note of minute things as well as lessening their effort, as it precludes the need to go for many revisions because of interest. It improves receptivity among the candidates and also lessens the burden. Thus, the chances of students undergoing fatigue becomes very less. The lesser the amount of fatigue, the greater is the efficiency of study. What will interest the students in studies and learning so that they enjoy their studies is up to the students themselves. One of the ways is accessing chapters that have been prepared using virtual reality, augmented reality and immersive technology and presented in a video form. The other can be having a joint study with someone close to, near and dear, and who knows, that can be the most important factor.